morning. Welcome to this week's episode. I'm at somewhere called Landguard Point, and it's Felixstowe docks, which is just behind me, as you can see. And I'm here at low tide in the rain to take a photograph of these kind of old drawings, or like an old harbour. I don't know what it is, some kind of old thing that's decayed, with Felixstowe docks in the background. Now I haven't envisaged this as a black and white. I'm going to make the sky really dark and moody, but actually I've forgotten about the fact that it's going to be lit up, and it does look actually really quite nice in colour. So I've got this lovely dark blue colour. The rain is going to be a challenge, I'll be honest. I was expecting it, but I was hoping it wouldn't be here. I was hoping it would disappear, but it is what it is. Got the big golfer umbrella out just to try and keep everything dry. You're covered in a plastic bag, so it's supposed to ease off in about an hour, but I'm not sure it's going to be that much better. What I wasn't expecting actually was this quite a strong wind, which is not going to make things easy, but we only need a couple of shots here, so let's see if I can't get something now. Right, so now the juggling begins. What I'm going to try and do is hold the umbrella. I'm going to balance it in my pocket. Now I'm going to go quite wide on this, because to be honest it's so blowy and so rainy that what I really want to do is just get in a picture, and then I can play about with the crop later on. Let's do one like that. Let's check the lens is right. The lens is absolutely fine. That's the main thing. I have got water all over the body, but just a few raindrops, it will be fine. So we're going to get a lot of sky in. Oh dear, what a day. In all honesty, I think this is probably going to end up being, at some point, a reshoot. Right, so there's absolutely no colour in the sky that I can see. There's going to be a bit of light pollution coming off the docks, but they're very, very busy. What I'm actually going to do with this is focus up on the first post. I'm going to crop quite wide, so I'm just really going to get everything that I want in the picture, and I'm going to worry about the composition when I get back to into Lightroom. Let's just turn the self timer on, and then we can crop this out later. The rain is giving it a little bit of mist in the distance of that enormous great tanker. I mean, absolutely massive these guys are. It was here yesterday when we did our scouting mission, so it's taken them all night to load it up, and they are still going. Now what I'm really going to wait for now, I mean that's in the bag, it's that easy. F9, 1 second, 200 ISO, which makes no difference whatsoever. Monochrome, it'll work well. What I'm going to do with this is I am going to turn this into monochrome, and I'm going to really play with the sky. I'm going to really make it dark and moody, so you know it's grey here and there's a little bit of detail in the sky, but I'm going to make it look darker than that, and that's a little bit of creative license that I'm going to use. But these old posts are lovely. Just waiting for a little bit of light. Sun should be up now. Well, it is somewhere, just we can't see it for all of the greyness. The colours will be highlights, so that will be interesting. But we've got 3 seconds, so that's going to blur the water. Keep the umbrella out of the picture. And that is pretty much done. So we're just going to check it, if that's possible to do. Yeah, the boat's looking a bit blurry. We're okay, it looks good. There's nothing on the lens. So what I'll do now, I'm just going to cover up the lens so we don't get wet, or it doesn't get raindrops on it. Not so worried about the body, it's going to be okay. It's weather sealed, so a few drops isn't a problem. I'll put the camera away, and then we'll go back to the car, and I'll talk to you about why this is probably going to be the last shoot with the GFX and what I'm going to be doing. Oh, it's not too bad. I mean, I've worked in worse conditions, but it's not easy with the. You just want to get any rain on the lenses, and you've had it really with the picture. So it's not the best picture at the moment. I mean, it's a nice composition, and I will still work with it. And I think we can get a really nice black and white one out of this, but I don't know whether it would suit a really nice sunrise. Sunset might be good as well. It's not the best position because sunrise is that way and sunset is this way, and actually the composition is looking straight over here. But I wanted to talk about why I'm swapping camera systems, because if you follow the channel at all, you will know that I absolutely love this camera. I bought it in September before I went to Jersey. It's been brilliant. It still is brilliant. Things I love about it, it's just got everything I need. It's wide angle lens, a box, and then a really lovely sensor. And the files that come out of this are just amazing. I mean, they're really good quality. They're so easy to process. I love the fact that there's the focusing things that I use a lot are on the back here rather than at the front. I'll get to that in a minute. I can press all my settings on this there's a little Q dial here which you can customize everything, so it's all set up, ready to go. I can get to everything I want to do. A dial at the front here where my finger is, and a dial at the back where my thumb is, and that can adjust the exposure triangle. Absolutely brilliant. I really like this camera, but things that I've been making decisions on. I really like shooting ultra wide, and this is a perfect body for that because Fuji do a 20 to 35mm ultra wide zoom, which will give me a huge, I think it's something like 15mm or something like that, and that would look amazing. There's very little distortion. So ultra wide, if I were to spend £2.5 grand, and the lenses for this are really expensive, if I were to do that, then I would have the ultra wide end covered. It's quite heavy, and an ultra wide lens will be heavier still. Now the problem I have is the telephoto end, so anything above 50mm equivalent to 35mm. To get those detail shots, if I'm in the fells or in the mountains, or I can see some details even in East Anglia, you can see some trees and stuff. That is difficult with these cameras because the crop ratio is, I'll put it up on the screen, something like 0.7 I think. So to get a telephoto lens, even a 250mm lens, which is really expensive and incredibly heavy, and that will only going to give me something like 150mm. So not easy. And I've got to the stage now where I was thinking I need some telephoto lenses. I need to be able to get longer because I'm missing pictures. Now my original plan when I bought the GFX was that I've got this one. I've got my XT4. I've also still got an XT2, and this is an ultra wide zoom, so 10 to 24. So the crop ratio again is different. I'll put it on the screen. And there's a telephoto that I've got that goes with this. Now the mid-range zoom, I had a 16 to 55, which was a lovely lens, but I got rid of that because I was thinking, well, I'll cover the mid-range with this, and actually I needed to chop the money in, so I needed to part exchange that lens to be able to afford to buy this. But that's left me with is if I were to go up into the fells or into the mountains and lakes to take some pictures, I don't want to be carrying stuff that's heavy, because I'm carrying stuff and I'm going to be doing some wild camping, so that in itself, I just want to reduce the weight. And I'm going to either have to take this with one lens, and it would possibly work, but that's when I'm going to need a telephoto, or I could take this with the ultra wide and the telephoto but have no mid-range, which is the one I'm probably going to use the most. So what could I do? I could buy a mid-range zoom back again to go with this system, and that would work, but as you may know, if you saw my video about why this is the best camera for landscapes, you'll know that I have a problem with sunrises with this and the colour range. I do I do know, because I proved it to myself, that there's more colour in the medium format than there is in this small sensor. So therefore, I'm kind of making compromises with the quality. So I've made a decision, I think. I've blogged about this, so it's on my website if you want to go and read it. It's not too bad a read, I don't think. I've decided that what I'm going to do is I'm going to swap this in, the telephoto lens, my XT2, and all the paraphernalia and bits that go with it, along with, pains me to say, my beloved GFX. And what I'm going to buy instead is a full frame Nikon Z7ii and a couple of lenses. So I'm going to have enough for a 14mm up to 200mm on 2 zoom lenses. So 2 lenses, not 3, lighter body so I can carry it easier, and it's not medium format. This is a 50 megapixel sensor, but the Z7 is a 45 megapixel sensor, so 4 megapixels different. But actually this would still beat it because it's a bigger sensor, therefore there's more color range. But the Z7 will have more color range than the XT4, and the images that I've seen out of it have been simply stunning. And there's 3 photographers who I regularly follow. One I regularly talk to, a guy called Stuart McLennan, who I've mentioned before. Stuart uses that system. I was talking to him last night, and
interestingly enough, Stuart recommended Sony if you were going to change. So will I swap to Nikon or not?
It's a toss-up between 3 systems: the Canon, the Sony, and the Nikon. Stuart says Sony, maybe, but he's a Nikon user because of the lenses. But to be honest, the Nikon at the moment has got the lenses that I need. The Sony has got all sorts of different lenses, but it's not really a landscape camera. I find this XT4 really difficult to use. I've wanted to love it. I'm sure it's brilliant. It is brilliant, but I just cannot. And there's an amount of times, and there's been more than one, there's been a few times where I've gone, how on earth do you do that? And I'm working, and the landscape's in front of you. I'm looking and looking and looking, how on earth do you, I just can't find my way around it. I actually did go through the whole menu once to try and learn it, but unsuccessfully. The other good thing about the Z7 is the fact that it's got good video. Now this GFX is obviously brilliant for stills, but the video on it is not very good. And I want to be able to show you what I'm looking at when I'm looking through the camera. And so that will be another little advantage with the Z7. I really enjoy with this camera and this camera, with the Fuji system, I really enjoy the film simulations. I think they're brilliant. But I've obviously now got the program from Dehancer, which will allow me to emulate the films anyway. And if you haven't seen the video about that, I'll link it up here somewhere. But Dehancer, the Dehancer program, the Dehancer software allows me to emulate the film anyway, so that isn't a big problem. So I'm just going to think about it for a few more days, but I'm pretty sure that the next time you see me, I'll be using a Z7. Right, well, it's all steaming up. The sky is completely grey, but there are a few bits of detail in it. So what we'll do now is we'll go back to the office, and I'm going to turn this into a really dark, creative, black and white picture, and I'll show you what that looks like now.
Step up in the building, killing it, they thought I wouldn't. 0 to 100, baby, I'm dripping in diamonds. This goes in my eyes, it's special. Climb up to my level, wanna see the view. Can you do it like that, kiss it like that, making it last fast, bring it right back, wear it like that, move it like that, like it like, do it like that, kiss it like that, making it last fast, bring it right back, wear it like that, move it like that, like it like, do it like that, kiss it like that, making it last fast, bring it right back, wear it like that, move it like that, like it like that, like that, like that, do it like that, do it like that, like that, like that, like that. fast, bring it right back. Wear it like that, move it like that, like it like, do it like that, kiss it like that, making it last fast, bring it right back. Wear it like that, move it like that, do it like that, kiss it like that, making it last fast, bring it right back. Wear it like that, move it like that, like it like, do it like that, kiss it like that, making it last fast, bring it right back. Wear it like that, move it like that, like it like that.
Oh, but just let me jump in again before I go. Sorry, I've just been sneezing, so my eyes are watering. Just let me jump in because I did say I'm going to come back to the focusing. The thing I really don't like about the X-T4, there's a couple of things actually, apart from the fact that I find the menu system not the easiest. It's not the system itself, it's the words. What does that mean? Well, why not all call it the same thing, I guess? And maybe that's an excuse, but it's been frustrating to use. So focusing, to change from single to manual, which is what I need to do quite a lot. I often get the camera to get it close, and sometimes that will work as single focus, and I can leave the autofocus to the camera. Sometimes I want to make sure it's done so I can put it on manual. That's on the front here, and if you're on a tripod and you're behind the camera, I can never remember which is which, so I find that really, really difficult. And on the GFX, it's at the back, which is just where I need it. Nikon system, it's all on the touchscreen here at the back, so that's just as easy, I would think. So that's one thing that I find annoying. Other thing I find annoying, that only does, I want this to tilt up and down, which it did on the X-T2, because if I'm at the high end of a tripod, I want to be able to just tilt the screen down so I can see it. Love it on the GFX. Really don't like it on here. The Nikon's got it. If you're a vlogger, then that's kind of useful, but because of my L bracket, it doesn't go any further than that, and that's no good at all anyway. So that kind of doesn't work really. The movie out of this is quite good. The video out of this is quite good, so it's good for that, and it is a good, decent camera. It's a decent system, but I'm going away from the quality of it now. I think full frame is the thing for me. Let me just show you what I like. Another thing I want to tell you before I go about the GFX, and that is, I'll swap those over. That is the fact that I can change really quickly, and you know this because you've seen me do it so much, the aspect ratio. I was talking at a camera club the other day, they were saying all these aspect ratios you keep talking about. That's 65 to 24, which I can't get to work here. There we go. Gives me that kind of 65-24 crop, which I really love. Now that's one thing the Nikon hasn't got, and it's quite ridiculous that it hasn't got it, because the Nikon system, you can shoot in 1:1, so you can shoot square. You can shoot on different image sizes. It's not as easy to adjust as that. I suppose it is actually, because it's going to be on the quick menu. But the problem is, with this one, I get the raw file. So even if I've cropped it, when I put it into Lightroom, the whole file is there, and I can therefore choose to ignore the crop. On the Nikon, you don't. You just get whatever you cropped. I mean, why? But that said, this is the only camera that I've ever had that I've used that, and I've used it a lot, and it is something that I'll miss, but I've never used it before. I can soon get used to not using it. And the other thing about the Fuji, all Fuji cameras, I've used Nikons, actually every camera brand that I know of apart from Fuji, the lens release button is just there where my left finger is. I always grab for that turn and change. Fuji's, it's on the opposite side. Not a big thing, you know. There are people starving in the world, but I want to be able to get my hands, turn it, lens off, other lens on. And I've done that over so many years that my muscle memory is so ingrained that still annoys me. Where's the button? So, hey ho. I mean, those are just a couple of things. So, things I like, things I don't like, and a couple of annoyances really. Let me show you the stuff that's not going, because I also use a couple of drones. So first of all, the Mini 2. I've got the Fly More kit. I've got the RC-N1, I think it's called, the controller, which goes on your phone, which I don't like as much as the smart controller that I'll show you in a moment, but it's quite cheap. It comes with it. 3 batteries. I can get over an hour with this, and the good thing about this is under 250 grams, so I can fly this in lots of places. It's not great when it's really windy, so I've kept, for that very reason, I've also got, and if I show you the case, this is the case. And in here we have the, we can see that very well, the DJI Mavic Pro 2. Again, with the Fly More kits has got 3 batteries on this, and I use the smart controller, and it all sits in this kit. And this drone is my favourite drone. It will last it will fly in all sorts of different wind conditions. So it's a really sturdy drone. It's too heavy though to fly legally over people, so I tend to use this on the coast or in the mountains or in the fells. That works well. Otherwise, if I'm going to a built-up area, we take the Mini 2. That's the plan. Now, I had thought about swapping out one of these, because the Mini 3 Pro is really nice. Does vertical video recording, so that's a possibility. And the Mavic 3 is really nice, but very expensive. But I'm not convinced how much better it will be than this drone. I think this drone at the moment is still brilliant. I've just changed the blades on it, and it's a wonderful piece of kit. And I like to get with a smart control, it works really well. So I think the drones are going to stay. This is the only one I might replace, but I think I'm going to keep this and see what the Mini 4 looks like whenever that comes out. So that's all the gear that I currently use. To find out what I buy, I mean, you can leave comments below if you think you can guess. I may have given some of it away on social media, but don't be fooled, because I've since had some other thoughts, and at the moment I've got 2 systems in mind, and I, at this moment in time, don't know what I'm going to buy, because a lot of photography, a lot of camera stuff is about the feel of it and how it feels to the hand. So I've got an appointment tomorrow, a camera shop in Norwich, where everybody knows quite well, I'm sure. And there I'm going to chuck all this stuff in for them to give me a price for, and I'm going to try 2 systems, and one of them is going to be in my hand the next time you see me. So until then, thanks ever so much for tuning in. If you haven't subscribed, think about doing so, and I will see you with a new system next week. Goodbye.